Alright, so I'm going to talk a little bit here, and then when I go into the garage, I'm not going to be able to talk at the same time. But I'm going to record this and have started recording this for I'll basically upload it to YouTube. I have a couple other videos, just small, little, trying to be helpful kind of videos. So I'm just going to walk through basically trying to snug up your car. After I make changes, I'll talk about what I did in here so you can hear as well.
Okay.
But the first thing I am going to do is just look at what you have and then go run some laps in it.
Yeah, that's why I'm running a few laps real quick, just to see how you can see how it is at the start.
So this tire pressure split's kind of random. It's quite a bit of ballast. Crossweight's just a little high, but all right. Steering ratio could probably be a little higher. Tape could be higher. Small bar. 400, 400. Those are default from the fixed. Default shock package with the bumps and rebounds. Don't look like they're any different than the fixed. Looks like this crazy big split is default from the fixed. Track bar is, I think, maybe slightly reduced from the fixed. I know this because I started with the fixed this week. I don't think you can change the gear, so bottom. I think a big part of why this setup is loose is there's an 800-pound split from left rear to right rear, and then you're also running different size springs. So if you look at, and by different size I mean the length of the spring. So if I were to take this 325 to a 350, it goes from 7.3 to 7.5. But if I go above 425 or right at 425, it just dropped to 5.2 because it's a different size spring. So if I pull that back up to the default, you're running, a different size spring. It's like every 400 pounds it goes up to a different size. So he's even above the 800 mark. So he's running, I believe it's at the 800 mark, even something bigger or shorter, one of the two on this, which, I mean, anything can work. But personally, I like to try to keep it in the same kind of size spring. So if I'm running like a 325, I wouldn't be running anything higher than like a 400 on the right rear. But that's not really going to be doable, especially with such a high cross weight. So what you're going to look at is more than likely want to run something above 425 and probably below 1000. So I was going over your set. One of the big things I see is you have a huge split from your rear springs. A lot of the stuff that's in the set is definitely default from the fixed, and so this might be even easier when I put this video up so you can kind of see everything. But I'm gonna make some changes after I do a run real quick and talk you through it.
All right.
Sorry, one sec. Alright, so we're gonna get on track with the setup as is, no changes, and I'm just gonna do like 5 laps maybe, just to kind of see what it feels like and what it's doing, where it's at pace wise. And I'm coming off of we just talked in a B Open race. He was really struggling to keep the car underneath him, and it was a race I actually just went and won, so it's pretty cool. So I'm just gonna try to make this just a little bit better. Oh yeah, she's loose. Big time. And it's also in the air, and you can tell that the nose of the car is not sealed at all. And I can tell because when I went into one, I just drove right over the bumps, and you just saw no reaction. I didn't get thrown up at all. And so a good car, when it's sealed, you're super close to the ground, you are going to occasionally hit, and that's all right. So when I go into the corner here, throw it in and I drive in, you know, there's bumps right there, and they did not affect my car like at all. So my nose is not anywhere near low enough, and what that's actually going to do is, I believe, kill some downforce. You know, the nose is not sealed. It makes the car a little bit looser, and you're giving up speed at the same time. So a little bit of the car control can come from, and I better turn on telemetry here. Sorry. There we go. So I'm gonna run about 2 more laps here, just so I can log telemetry for this, and just see where the nose is of the car. Even the rear, I mean, you don't want it to be absolutely too high. And my preferred lane is about a lane up off the bottom here, 1 and 2, and you're gonna do the bottom in 3 and 4 for sure. You can, if you want to make passes here, the outside 3 and 4 can really work for you. You just gotta know how to make it work. This car turns in really well, but I mean, it's just because it's up and the whole thing is so loose. Alright, so right there I'm gonna kill it. And my fastest lap was a 31.1. And normally in this kind of temp, you're probably hitting 30.3s and 2s. See the weather. 70. Might be in the 4s and 5s. Alright, so let's look at the tire wear too, just to start. See, the right rear is already hotter in the middle. A little closer on the insides, but this is a big indicator that, you know, the right rear is probably going to wear more. You can see the hot pressure is even building up faster in the right rear, so it is going to lean on the right rear a lot more. So let me go ahead and pull up my telemetry. And Motec. And let me flip the screen over to Motec. And make that a little bit bigger, and we'll put it, you know, center. So anyway, if you look at this, you can kind of see the left side actually is sealed at one point in time. So this blue arrow right here indicates the lowest point over the run, and this is just over 1 lap. And this is actually looking at, I don't know why it's got it stretched out. There we go. So over the whole lap, 0, 0 is the lowest point, and 0.2, which is fine. But I mean, if you look at the lines, you can see it's coming up quite a bit. It's up in the air most of the way, and the average ride heights are 1.2 and 1.3. This side never even comes down. So what that's kind of telling you is the car is actually, for the most part, in the air most of the way around. Your rear ride heights here, the only thing you're really looking for is really just trying to eliminate this green line, your left rear ride heights being higher than the right rear, especially in the corner, because that'll just cause rollover and adverse effects. So looking at this, the car could be lower and definitely more consistent. So let's take your, let's match the shock springs here. We'll start there. And we'll just max those out like you see on a lot of the VRS and everything else. I mean, that is a very easy way to go, and it's pretty quick usually. So let me make Motec disappear. This might not help too much. We'll go to 65, just because this track is so bumpy. but that actually is probably going to put the car a little more in the air, and the left side was already high. So we'll drop that a little bit. So the Packers are going to help us adjust how close we are to the ground, basically, or how soon the shock spring engages. So the shock spring rate is the shock spring itself, versus the Packer is basically how quick it engages. The lower number equals faster impact. You can have 0 and, or lower number is longer to impact. Sorry, because you can run 0 and you'll have no shock spring engagement, as to where a higher number is faster engagement. I'm also going to go ahead and max out the bump and rebound, just because that is the common way to go now. Immediately I'm going to take some of this right rear spring out. We're going to set it right at about 1000. And then we're going to set the left rear up to 5 or 550. And what I'm doing there is just trying to reduce the split from left to right. I don't want the right side to be significantly bigger than the right side, or left side, sorry. Losing my train of thought a little bit here. Basically, the bigger the split, the higher the dynamic cross weight, or lower. Either way, you're going to be looser in any cross weight. All right, so you can see this big split from left to right here. It's going to be the same thing. You're going to be loose. Of course, anytime you go up on the track bars is going to loosen you up. Looking at the front now, let's go ahead and one check this just while we're doing this kind of stuff, because preload can get messy. As you can see, we're just going to try to get the right heights pretty close to even, and the right sides are in the air as far as stagger on. So you're seeing this was 7.0 and this was all the way at like 7.4. So what you're trying to do is even these out a little bit, so statically it sits a little lower on the track. Alright. We're going to put this back to as close to 0 as possible. We drop that one more click. Put that back to 0. And then we can add a little bit of camber just to get this to pass. Alright, Tyler, I made a couple changes. I'm gonna go try it out real quick, and then I'll pass it back to you here.
All right.
It might help if I'm ready to actually roll. Sorry. Don't like the texture on this wheel, so I have to wear gloves. But those are a bitch to type in, so hope everyone likes my language. It's pretty colorful. So now, if we look on the board, you see 30.4 is doable right now. Dave Robertson is rolling up. Another thing is the left side tire pressures being what they were, 24 and 22, I believe, or 22 and 20. There's a 2-pound split. Either way, that is significantly low in comparison to the right sides, which are 45s, which is as low as you can drop them. So if you have a bigger split, usually that makes the car looser. So you want to decrease that split by running maybe higher left side tire pressures. The common number is up to about 30. I would say is just a good reference point. So the standard for adjusting the setup, like when you're loose or tight or whatnot, handling, the left rear is huge, and so the right rear is kind of viewed more as a right height adjustment, so where the left rear is big time on affecting feel of the car. So by reducing the right rear, we really set a different ride height, and we kind of build around that. The left rear, increasing that for sure, is just meant to tighten the car up. This is the only goal. And it is definitely a lot snugger. I can't drive it as hard as I could before, but that's also not a bad thing, because he was just going to be spinning out of control after a couple of laps. We definitely picked up a little bit of pace, I think. Back in the 30s now. Alright, it's a little bit tight. I was also getting it though. Alright, I'm going to pass this your way.
Alright.
So let's go ahead and even out the tire pressures at 25. We'll start there. So that's, and we'll even jump up to 30 because we said 30 was a good number. So now we have a 15-pound split from left to right on both tires, which is fine. And let's look at the ride heights, because anytime you make almost any change, it's going to affect the ride heights. And this is without going into big details on how some of this stuff works, because that is a long conversation. Every time I make an adjustment, I try to have this unattached, because when you attach it and say you make an adjustment like taking out arm asymmetry, you're going to have all this negative preload, and then your ride heights don't pass tech. And you can always fix that by, you know, just clicking all the way back. But you see, it just changes like that. As to where if it's unattached, usually it just has a 2 or a negative, but it doesn't add preload, so you can see your ride heights are good. You just always bring it back to 0 and attach it, and you're good. So the goal, I would say here, just keep these ride heights as low as possible using the purchase. Your springs here are fine. We already picked a shock spring package. Let's look at what the run looked like on telemetry. And I can tell you this thing is off the walls crazy right now. Let me pull this up. Alright, so as you can see on Motec here, or if you can, 0.4 in the air and -1. So it's on the ground on the right front and in the air on the left side. And so we might fix that actually with a little more arm asymmetry and try to flip that a little bit. The other thing would be Packers. And I could definitely see, because we're running 1.8 on the Packers on the left side, that could be a big part of it, especially with it being 0.4. So we'll go ahead and we'll just start with Packer. How about that? We'll drop down to like 1.437, and we'll put in 1.875 on the right front just to get it up off the ground a little bit. And then this is going to be a little different just because the tire pressures on the left side increased also. So, and let's go ahead and bump up the tape while we're at it, just because I said we can run a little bit more tape, I think. All right. The big thing really before working on the setup is, you know, I have tons and tons and tons of laps here this week. It's really practice. You know, make sure you're driving the car right. Like right now, I'm driving it pretty hard, but for the long run, to avoid being loose, I'm just using throttle control and just not trying to overdrive the car, and it really pays off. So I don't have all the short run speed. I mean, I can, but I'll kill the tires. This is where there's some guys that just sprint out of the box, and I'm like, you know, kind of struggling to keep up a little bit, you know, just trying to match their pace a little bit. And then as they fall off, you know, I'll start picking up my pace a little bit, and I can, you know, run away. I mean, at the end of that race, I had a 6-second lead after green flag pit stops and all. I had like 4 before, and you know, I was just pulling with 20 to go, so I would have got quite a bit out, quite a bit of ways out there. Definitely saving your stuff is huge. And you see the pace on this is just dramatically better. Another benefit to decreasing that split from left to right tire pressures is actually a little bit of increase in speed, as well as we added some tape. Not much, but enough. So you see we're in the 7s now. And this setup came from the Tyler Lugo Vickery and the 1 car behind me. And he said he had made some changes from the Vegas fix, so it's pretty close to the Vegas fixed. And we're just gonna see if we can make it kind of decent by the end of this little session. So let's go ahead and look at, after that run, telemetry. Alright, so pulling it back up. Even. So 0, 0, lowest point, 0, 0, even, lowest point, 1.0, 1.0. So typically I'd like to try to get this a little lower, but this is going to be just fine. And you still be running a 7 in a race trim. So you're running in the 31s before. So not bad. I'm good with pretty much where the ride heights are. I don't like this left rear being taller, but that is going to happen. And the one way we can kind of maybe resolve that a little bit is going to be arm asymmetry or preload. So looking in the garage really quick. Alright, so in the garage, one of the big things, if you need to pull the left side down more, is more arm asymmetry. That's going to use the, what this is for basically is leveling out the front end. And so say the left side is higher than the right, you can go a little more on the arm asymmetry and it will push the left side down while raising the right side. Same thing with preload. You can add a bit of a roll to the left effect, so really it's just a right height adjustment ultimately. And we're not really using this to the full extent. You could definitely do more. You can run a different bar size. We could play with the nose a little bit with the ballast, but we're just trying to get a basic feel for this thing. So let's go ahead and let's put this at 8 and 12. This I just like to, for reference, usually just start at 8 and 12. Is a good, I feel like, starting point in the middle. And when I adjust the track bars, I try to go in increments on the same side. So if I'm too loose, I might go down a ½ inch on the left side, but I'm also gonna do that on the right side. So that's a full inch total adjustment, but you're trying to keep the, I believe the roll center the same. So everything looks all right. Those changes, let's go ahead and take a look. Now this is gonna be a lot looser just because we, added track bar, or went up in the track bar. Does that feel any better, Tyler?
Oh, yeah, it's like when I run it like how I normally would, where I normally like to take tires at the start, like good, and then they does tighten up even more a little, but that's just because of the tire wear. And then, but then like if I wanted to push on a qualifier, it's a little loose, but it's more controllable compared to what I was doing, like the setup I had before. But yeah, that's already a much bigger improvement compared to what I probably would have taken.
So you see I'm not driving the car quite as hard this time because I loosened it up. Can't get it to the full throttle mark quite as quick, or I'm just not going to try. I'm still driving it in kind of deep. Just because I know that's how you kill the tires. That right there, just mashing the gas and trying to drive it off. You can carry speed, but especially driving off the right rear, especially in a place like this where it's just kind of slick, you're not gonna have very good long run speed if you push it real hard the whole time. You will kill the tires pretty quick. So this right here though is feeling pretty good. You can see lap wise, definitely a big pickup right there. There's a 509.
Got one outside. You're clear high. Clear
That
high.
puts me back to P2 on the board. Definitely an improvement. Starting to stutter a little bit. Oh.
You've got wheel damage.
Had to adjust my screen. Alright, let's look at garage. So this is definitely going to be a lot looser, and I would see, I think you'll definitely see a little bit of still loose on the long run, for sure. Here, Tyler, give that a shot. So I'm just going to have him
Alright.
run that, and then you can see in my chat there, he's watching my video on how to install telemetry and Motec and whatnot. I definitely find it a lot more beneficial to use Motec than VRS stuff. I just never really figured out VRS. I know some people like to use it, but personally, this esports racing group workbook, I mean, it has more available to it, but I know there's a Gen X one out as well on their website. This is just so simplistic, and it's so easy to come and find these numbers. I mean, you have more data though. I built something kind of custom just so I can see where I'm at temperature-wise to gauge if I need more tape or not. But tire temps, you can see a weight transfer if you understand, how this works, how it benefits you. Lifting points, you can watch basically, and I think I modified this. Basically, I wanted to see what the car is doing, the nose is doing, in comparison with the throttle, my throttle inputs, and let me update to the newest. So you can see I'm at 0.1 there, and that's right about the same point. I'm, fully out of the gas, roughly. So, but just kind of cool things you can check out. The bump spring. This stuff does not. It's not accurate unless you do the mass. I think I put a video up on that. Bump and rebound. I haven't really found it to be too beneficial to use this, but again, Motec's just all around helpful. Definitely feel like we made good progress on this car though. From where we started, this is something that could probably go run. If you were struggling before in the other one, this would run, top 15. It's not going to go win a race, but definitely a decent start or a decent base for general public. So I will go ahead and save that, and I will probably call it there. So